What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. Talk a little Marvel cards. Goldin Auctions happened this past Saturday, and a whole bunch of big Marvel cards ended at auction. So that's what we are going to dive into this morning / today / afternoon. So like, comment, you guys girls know the drill. Before we dive in, let's preface this a little bit. Because it was ugly. They got smashed, beat up pretty good when we look at some of these numbers. But both these things can be true. If you bought during the peak of January 2021, I'm sorry, January 2022, February 2022, you're probably down quite a bit. If you bought Marvel cards literally any time outside of that, maybe a little bit early March, but basically if you bought Marvel cards prior to early to mid-January 2022, you are probably still up. And depending on when exactly you bought them, you're probably actually still up quite a bit. So, was a correction in order? 1000% yes. I saw this coming a mile away and mentioned it multiple times. We've seen this in sports cards. We've seen this in comic books. Every collectible market. The tide comes in, raises everything up. Everything goes to the moon. We're rocket ships all over the place. We're going to the moon. We're going to the Mars. We're going to Uranus. I mean, we're just going everywhere. And then it comes back down to Earth and in a hurry. However, just like everything else, it usually settles in at a new floor price. Most of this stuff prior to early 2022 was dirt cheap. Dirt cheap. Yeah, Marvel cards got a little run up in February 2021. That was mostly 90 MU. That lifted everything up a tiny bit. But really, things did not start getting super nutty until late fall, early winter of 21, and then leading into 2022, with the peak being January and February. We had that big Spider-Man sale that coincided with the new Spider-Man movie late in the year, and that kind of kicked things off, and then it was kind of off to the races, and the races peaked in early 22, and then it's back down to earth from there. But as we've seen in most things, things go up, they come down and establish a new floor pricing. Now, have Marvel cards found their floor? I don't know. Nobody does. That's the way that this works. We all just kind of guess a little bit. But I could tell you right now, the new floor is going to be a lot higher than what they sold for probably for the entirety of 2021. So it's all perspective. You can, I think, Dakota did a video at one point in time, I think, talking about how you could swing these charts and graphs to pretty much say anything that you want. And this is the exact same case. We're not going to do this today, but I could show you data points that shows you that I am way up on PMGs because I bought them in April of 2021. Look at me. I'm up 70%, 80%, 90%. We're printing money over here. It's going burr, as Rudy likes to say. And then I could show you another graph from January, February of 22, where I'm down 60%. And I'm, begging for chicken nuggets at Chick-fil-A. I'm going to Chick-fil-A and I'm asking, I can only get an 8-pack instead of a 12-pack. It is what it is, but I'm broke for Marvel PMGs. So the same numbers, the same cards could show two different stories. What really matters is when you bought it. Did you buy the hype, or did you buy before the hype? Or are you buying after the hype? There are some pretty good deals starting to pop up out there on stuff if you do believe in Marvel cards long term. Now, I do believe in Marvel cards long term. I just didn't believe in the prices that they were doing in January and February, which is why I only bought a very few PMGs at that point in time. So, with all that being said, I think I got the preamble out of the way. Let's go ahead and dive in and look at some actual sales prices from this most recent gold. Now, I have accused Goldin in the last couple of having some cards that probably shouldn't have been on Goldin. Most of the stuff this time around was legit Goldin cards. Pretty big stuff. And a lot of them had stuff that we could compare it to see, in this case, how much of a bloodbath that it was, because it was pretty ugly. Spider-Man Green PMG BGS9. This is the king of the mountain in this auction. Monster card sold for $168,000 with buyer's premium. I'm including the buyer's premium in this comp. Goldin does, and that's what the buyer actually paid. So that's the number that matters. BGS 9, very strong grade on a PMG. They're very, very tough to grade. We have seen BGS comps be a little bit lower than people expect compared to PSA and even compared to RAW in some cases. But 168,000 in a BGS 9, very, very strong grade for these. Anyone that's had any experience with PMGs knows they are extremely tough grades. We got 9 centering, 8.5 edges, I believe. Yeah. 9 corners and a 9.5 surface. 9.5 surface on a PMG is pretty crazy. So that's that. 168,000. Pretty strong number. What's the most comparable sale to it? Well, back in February, as we've talked about before, February 22nd, new record, one went for 255,000 raw. So very interesting there. About a 80K drop from a raw to a BGS 9. So a pretty hefty hit there on this one. The fact that a BGS 9 went for 80,000 less. And like I said, this was the premiere. This is 2013 Flir Retro, green, numbered to 10. And a lot of people are putting sets and stuff like this together. These do not come up very often. That being said, still $170,000 for a Marvel PMG is ridiculous. Like I said, it is all perspective of when you bought, like most things. Fun thing on this one. So I had on multiple live streams and even some videos, I had posed the question both to Marvel card people, non-Marvel card people. Would you, when this sold actually, would you rather spend $250,000 on a green PMG or an Amazing Fantasy 15? I was on the side of AF15 all day, every day. It's one, in my opinion, Amazing Fantasy 15. You might ride the waves with it, but it is probably one of the safest collectible investments that there is, in my opinion. I don't know that I'll ever own one. They are the price of a small Honda Civic in copies that are ripped up and look like a dog chewed on them. So I said at the time, $250,000, I will take the AF15 all day long. So let's look at some GPA data really quick. And we actually have 2 semi-recent sales that back this up. January, a CGC 7.0 sold for $252,000. So basically the same price as a green, about a month earlier. And then in April, so not super current, but current enough, the same, or not the same 7.0, but another 7.0 sold for $222,000. So if I had $250,000 and I bought an AF15 back during the peak of the Marvel card bubble, I'm down 30K on my investment, as opposed to, who knows what, because this is 255K to 170K, and this is raw to a BGS 9. So what would a raw go for this right now? Obviously less. So much better investment in this case going with the AF15. Like I said, I think AF15 is just straight up one of the safest things you could possibly buy when it comes to collectibles. Let's continue on down the list. Next up, complete set red. Red PMGs of 2017 Flir Ultra Spider-Man. Now, I did not go grade through grade on these. So, that could throw things off a little bit. The other thing is there are 12, I believe, that were authentic altered, which is weird to see that many in a single thing as authentic altered. And I don't know which 12 they were all on. I didn't do all the digging on that one. But regardless, this sold for $17,000, a complete set, $17K. And I'll give it big asterisks. 12 examples of assessed, authenticated / altered. So, whatever is going on with that. Back in February, a complete set, none of them were authenticated, altered, sold for $205,000. So, wow, I will give credit where credit's due. The asterisk applies. 12 of these were altered. I 100% thinks that really hurt the value on this. But we are still talking about $180,000 price difference between these two, which is absolutely wild. And like I said, I did not go grade by grade. Some of that could swing it quite a bit, depending on what the Spider-Man grade's out at. In this case, 2017 what the Spider-Gwen grades out at. The Iron Man, the Venom are all really key cards in this set. The Venom, in my opinion, the 2017 Venom is the best looking Venom out of all the PMGs. That's this one right here. And then, you know, some of the other key characters. So grade for grade, even if this set was raw, I mean, just the fact that it's that big of a price gap. Like I said, this one's a little tricky to compare apples to oranges, but that still feels like a significant price difference between the complete graded set and the, you know, it's a complete graded set, but it's got the 12 authentic altered. So, but pretty big price gap there. Continuing along here, looking at some other ones. This is a 2017 Flir Ultra bronze set. These are numbered out of 199. Actually, very nice looking cards, to be honest. If there's a particular character that you like and you want to get a PMG and they're in the bronze set, you can pick these up fairly reasonable these days. Photos do not do these justice, in my opinion. They look really great in person compared to how they photograph. But this complete set raw went for $4,800. So let's just call it $5K. Back in the winter, this one was in February. Now this was an SGC graded set. Went for $22,000. So little bit different. You know, you got 50 cards. So you got $1,500 just in grading fees there. And then depending on what the individual cards grade out. Now I will say, flipping through here, some of the key cards, I forgot about the Miles earlier. The Miles is a very key card in this set. That's an SGC 9. You see a lot of 8s here in some of the other key characters. So it's not like there's some bangers in here in SGC 10s or 9.5s. And unfortunately, like most things, SGC comps do tend to be quite a bit less on Marvel cards, especially PMGs, compared to some of the other grading companies. But still a pretty big price difference there. You know, $15K price gap with one set being graded and one set being not. Feels a little extreme to me. Not like crazy. To me, this feels wilder. The fact that this red set went for $205 and this red set went for $17K feels way crazier than the gap between these two, in my opinion. Still a pretty good, still a drop in my opinion, but not as crazy. Moving along, a couple more here I want to look at. Blue Spider-Man PMG, PSA 8, very respectable grade. I would put that a slight premium on a PSA 8 over raw, in my opinion, when it comes to PMGs. And the Miles is out of the 2017 PMG set, one of the best cards that you could have. He is the future of Spider-Man. He'll eventually come to live action. You know, all the different things that go along with that. Very, very popular character and a very, very nice looking card. The blue PMGs do look great. This went for $4,500. Let's head back into the time machine in March 15th. Same card, same grade. Is it actually the exact same card? No, different card. But PSA 8 Miles Blue went for just over 13K. So we have about a 9K drop there, give or take, just quick math. So $9,000 hit there. I actually think I wouldn't necessarily pay this because that's a little out of my league for things that I typically like to buy, like above my price point. I usually like to stay a couple grand or less. That seems like a pretty good deal, actually, for a blue in that grade. But nice little 9K drop off there in just, what is that, 2 months time? March 15th to May 21st. Last one I want to look at, Doctor Strange Green, BGS 8.5. Once again, respectable grade. I would give this a little slight edge above raw. This went for 15.5 right after Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Good movie. Not like, didn't blow my mind, but I thought it was very, very solid. I think I gave it like I think when Kenny Fornos and I talked about it, I rated it a PSA 8. So very, very, very solid movie. But BGS 8.5 Green Doctor Strange, and this is from 2013, so only 10 of these. Back in the winter, a blue, which is numbered out of 50, also in a BGS 8.5, sold for $52K. And this was back in the February 24th one. Massive hit here. To drop from 52 to 15 is a massive number. And then for it to be from a blue to a green is even a much larger hit. So not an apples to orange comparison here, but you could, I mean, huge hit. This, percentage-wise, in my opinion, this might actually be the biggest loss out of all of them, because you're going to put a blue quite a bit lower than a green. And for this to go from 52K for a blue for a green selling for 15 is wild times. So we'll see what happens next. A lot of Marvel stuff is still selling quite strong. Do not get me wrong. Once again, this just all comes down to when you bought. If you bought during that January, February, mid to early March high period, you are taking a bath. If you bought any time outside of that, you're probably still doing quite well. There's already a ton of hype brewing for Spider-Man Metal. And then they just announced Flir Ultra Avengers, which is going to be coming out very, very late this year, probably early 2023, most likely. No PMGs in that product, but will have jambalayas. And jambalayas still command a nice premium as well. And there'll be a lot of other fun stuff in there, most likely. But Spider-Man Metal is coming, and Spider-Man Metal is going to be hyped to death. So don't think that Marvel cards are dead by any means at all. Did they get overinflated? 1,000% yes. Have they come back to Earth? 1,000% yes. Do I think Marvel cards still has a future in regards to a, I hate to use the word investable product, but something that, you know, you can move in and out of like sports cards? Yes. I'd still be a little cautious. I'd pick my spots. I'd pick my products correctly. I would do my research. And then even if you're not into that, they are still a hell of a lot of fun to collect. I like putting the sets together, especially the older stuff. I really enjoy ripping the 90 MU. And I'm excited for Spider-Man Metal. I have 4 boxes pre-ordered. I wish I had 40 boxes pre-ordered. It is what it is. I'm going to rip some. I might sell some. I don't know. I'll see how they go. And then the e-pack chase for that will be absolutely wild. Maybe I'll dig into that a little bit. I don't know. I've never been a big e-pack guy, but we'll see what happens. And then after that, we have Marvel Beginnings, which will be a fun collector set. I don't know that there'll be a lot of hype behind that one in regards to resale value, but I'm sure there'll be some stuff that comes out of it. But after Spider-Man Metal, which hopefully should be next month sometime, if we're lucky, and then later in the year, the Flir Ultra Avengers are the 2 next big tentpole sets, in my opinion, coming for Marvel cards. So Marvel cards are going strong for the rest of the year for sure. Like I said, if you stayed away from the peaks, you're probably doing okay. So that's all I have for you guys and girls. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.